sim racers from around the globe, honoring a revolutionary era of open-wheel racing. With a beast not easily tamed, roaring around legendary circuits at breakneck speed. When engineers and drivers push boundaries, sometimes too far. When heroes muscled roaring beast wheel to wheel around the hallowed grounds. A time when the only driver aids were his 2 feet. Perfect combination of man, machine, and speed. Experience the competition and the glory of the early 80s IndyCar action. The Lionheart Retro Series, presented by Sim Experience, starts now.
The Lionheart Retro Series reaches its halfway point in 2021. Last time out, the Lotus 79s roared in Speedway, Indiana, as we visited the Brickyard for the second Triple Crown race of the year. In what was a remarkably clean race with an extraordinary finish, the Watchman Mark Combe took home his second Triple Crown win by just 0.005 of a second as chaos ensued behind him. Today, though, we venture to Cone's backyard as we welcome you to wine country and to the HyperX Grand Prix of Sonoma. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined by David Haynes in the commentary booth for today's action. TV cameras provided to us by Istvan Ballo of TrackCams22.com with additional car cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. Let's dive straight into our HyperX pre-show because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit HyperXGaming.com and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. David, almost halfway through what has been an incredible season. This Lotus 79, it really does deliver some incredible action. 3 wide to the line last time at Indianapolis for the second of our Triple Crown races, and Mark Cone took the victory in a dramatic fashion.
Yeah, it's an awesome car. Great bit of pedigree to it. Delivers a lot of action, like you say, but it also delivers a lot of performance. It delivers a lot of noise, too. What a sound. We've got 23 cars or so, and that is enough to really raise hell and bring a racket to this awesome circuit. Bit of a roller coaster is Sonoma. Maybe lives a tiny bit in the shadow of Laguna Seca, but it has a lot of history all to its own. It is a fantastic track to go racing at with a lot of challenging corners and just a lot of character to it.
Only about 30 miles north of San Francisco, and of course, like you said, maybe a little bit in the shadows of Laguna Seca down in Monterey, but halfway through the season, it's been a wild ride so far, and I must say, David, things stretch out a little bit more over the second half of this year, but we've got some very fascinating tracks. Of course, your homeland of Phillip Island, we were there midway through May for one more of our wonderful road courses, but towards the end of the season, Silverstone, Long Beach, and Road America, today's race is really going to be an exhibition for the road course specialists.
Yeah, absolutely. Love a mixture of oval and road course racing because it really... you love when it challenges drivers to be good, not just singularly, but, you know, to really test every aspect of a driver's mettle and patience, and that is a great combination to have. But here on the road course, well, I think the hills and the blind corners and the blind crests is really going to test our drivers.
Well, for one day a year, Sonoma is green. iRacing captured it when it was yellow. Very, very dry, as it is right now in the Bay Area. Here is a look at our drivers' standings, presented by Sim Experience and the AccuForce Pro V2. Sage Karam has a rather substantial lead at the top of these championships, but third place finish last time from Speedway, Indiana, where he recorded a career-best 7th place in the real world, the 2021 Indianapolis 500. He's been such a strong competitor this year. 5 wins on the season, Let's see if he can add to that total. Some close battles up and down the field. Look out for someone like Matt Taylor, who's been very strong in his rookie campaign in the Lotus 79. Of course, not a rookie to Lionheart competitions, but enjoying the extra challenge here on a Thursday night. Here's a look at the rookie championships powered by Butt Kicker, and you'll notice straight off the bat that Michael O'Brien and Chris Fowler tied for second, but Matt Taylor almost 70 points in front of them, David, heading into the halfway point of the season.
Yeah, so a big margin for your leader there, but then as you can see, tied for second, super close between fourth and fifth there with just 3 points, and then only 2 points further back to Alex Goyon, who I was watching a little bit of in practice. So there is your top 10 for the rookie standings, and there are definitely some close battles there, particularly second and third, and then fourth, fifth, and sixth.
Of course, you've got the Lavoie Motorsports trio. They're 5th, 6th, and 7th. Always strong on a road course. Let's see how they get on here in wine country. A look at the team standings powered by HyperX and, well, Habitat Auto Racing. They've been very consistent on the season. Have a number of drivers who will be strong here on the road courses. And as you head to the halfway point of the season, David, it's really important to continue this momentum forward. They're almost 200 points clear of second place.
Yeah, and Graphics LC Motorsports there in second, AeroX Racing in third. That's pretty close with Lavoie Motorsport in fourth, and then you've got your various Ravens and Elite West Motorsports there. Interesting to see that your championship leader isn't representing the team in the top 5.
No, and I mean for Sage Karam, he's been so dominant. Let's see if his teammates can maybe match him. Let's talk a little bit about the series details presented by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to use the promo code minus273LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. Almost $7,000 in prize money, but of course, with 2 rounds done of our Triple Crown championship, the really interesting thing coming to a track like Sonoma, David, is a custom fixed setup. Drivers aren't going to have any sort of adjustments to be able to make to tailor the car to their liking. Instead, it's all about figuring out what you've got underneath you. Yep,
brings a great leveler, but then also means that, you know, some drivers are going to have to drive around the setup rather than having the setup around the driver. But one thing it does allow is an even playing field across all of the drivers. Everyone practices on the same setup. Everyone races on the same setup. So then it really does all rest in the hands and the pedals and the gear shifts of the drivers.
Well, and you mentioned the gear shift. I was watching on and just peeking my eye into the paddock in the series Discord, where drivers were talking about blown engines from over-revving the car. The third trip to wine country in as many years in the Lotus 79, and after 50 laps of action here today, we will be halfway through the 2021 season. In the previous 2 races, there has never been a lead change. And well, as we return to this track where there has never been a repeat pole or winner, I think all eyes are focused on the NTT IndyCar driver Sage Karam to try and change the form book. Defending race winner is also Ryan Otis, who of course is your series champion, but he's made the transition over to the IndyCars and the Lionheart IndyCar Championship. Let's talk a little bit more about this track, David. 2.52 miles. You talked about it being a roller coaster. You don't get the sense of elevation here today, but it really is a very interesting 12-turn track.
Yeah, anyone who's driven it on iRacing has felt all of that elevation change. I mean, from the start-finish line there, it immediately and rapidly climbs into that right-hander at the top of the hill that on paper doesn't look so complicated, but you're turning to the left, you're coming over the crest, and then you kind of get to the apex and the track drops away through the roller coaster flick, left, right, and then you take the full layout as stock car racing likes to do, and as this format of competition always did, and then that left-hand carousel, downhill, and then it flattens out onto part of the old drag strip, and then you've got one of the slower sections at the far end of the track there. Throughout the practice, I've been seeing the drivers really sort of meandering through that section. This is a car with a lot of downforce. It excels at the medium speed and the highest speed corners. You get it down to first or second gear, suddenly it's a little unwieldy, but that is a place we're going to see a lot of overtake. Then it's back into their element, sweeping through all of the corners towards the final hairpin.
I tell you what, qualifying is well and truly underway. 5 minutes left on the clock. Let's jump on board with your championship leader, Sage Karam, up the hill into turn 1 and take a lap here at Sonoma. A little bit loose coming over the crest of the hill, but trying to roll himself down onto the power. Karam is provisionally in 9th position and almost a full second off the pace. Throws it into that right-hand corner. Down the hill he plunges, trying to be very tentative on the power. 500 horsepower at his disposal and in towards the middle sector. This is crucial, David, to get yourself a good lap time.
Yeah, another time. Blind over the top of the hill. You've got to know where your braking is, where your turn-in is, and he's really holding it to the left-hand side. A little bit of a breathe in the middle before coming back to a late apex. But then it's critical to carry the speed down here. This is what I'm talking about. Whole bunch of gear shifts, really shedding off a lot of speed. He's thrown it into the first apex with a lot of speed and then gathered it up and carried it for the second apex. So that looks pretty good on board.
In through the S's. This is such a high commitment corner. Karam uses a bit of the curb on the inside. I'm unsure as to how many of the drivers will do that. Now this kink. Is he flat? Yes, he is, or as close to flat as I think anyone will want to be. Into the final corner as deep as he can go onto the brakes. Almost past the pit entrance on the left-hand side. Uses as much of the inside curb as he feels comfortable doing. A little bit of a snap of oversteer as he rolls himself onto the power. David Sirwa up to 4th. What's the lap time going to be? Karam does not improve. He's got some final opportunities to try and go a little bit faster. Not sure if you noticed, by the way, David, but at the top of the timing sheets, Mike Rasmussen and Matt Taylor, who was 2nd, 3rd in the championship, they are tied with a 1:20.919.
It's funny you point that out because I was just doing a double check between the on-screen graphics and my own timing screen, which had Matt Taylor up the front, but that's because they are tied in a dead heat for the pole position right now, and different software has rendered them in a different position. Now there will be, of course, a tiebreak on this if neither of them improve. Maybe there's a smaller fraction of measurement that doesn't get displayed. Maybe it'll be whoever puts the time down first. But one thing I did see on board there with Karam is he really lit up those rear tyres coming out of the final hairpin, and it is a hot track. I've only got socialism units for the temperature, but it is toasty. That is really going to be eating away at the tyres, really eating away at the grip. And if that continues for the race, that'll be something to keep an eye on as well. Just how the tyres last at the kind of speeds these cars do, at the lateral loading and braking and acceleration they're putting in. It'll wear out the tyres through the corners, but it'll also wear out those rear tyres off the slow corners, of which there are also around here.
Rasmus doesn't improve. Can Taylor go faster? No, it's just half a tenth between his current lap and the best lap time. I think those two drivers will be done with just under 3 minutes left in the qualifying. You are right, there is so much lateral load that's going to be placed down onto these drivers as Chris Staples goes up into 9th, bumps Sage Karam down into the 10th position. Of course, I was mentioning it before we came on air, David, but the race at Phillip Island was chaotic, to say the very least. Karam had to start all the way from the back of the field, charged his way to the front, and won in dominant fashion. It might be similar. He has not shown the best speed in qualifying, but of course race pace is going to be something totally different when it comes to that tire strategy.
And how about that carousel at turn 6 here? Not quite a dead ringer for the southern loop at Phillip Island, but both of them, these sort of medium to high speed corner left-hander with a bit of elevation in there as well. That's about the best similarity I can find between Phillip Island and here. Not many penguins in Sonoma, best I understand it.
No, definitely not any penguins. Like I was saying, there's about one day in every year where this track will get some rainfall, and instead of being yellow, it will be green, and it is a beautiful sight. But iRacing just happened to visit it on that the 364 days, I guess, that it's yellow, as DJ Clark, GSRC's own, into 12th, Sage Karam into 4th, a quarter of a second behind, but that will be a much more comfortable position to start today's action. You can also see the pit road there. It's an interesting place to try and enter and exit. You were talking about the
99 actually hit the wall on the way in there as we saw it. So that's key right now at the end of the qualifying, is practicing that pit entry, because you've got to attack all the way around the hairpin.
And it's a 50-lap race, and we're expecting 2 pit stops, so like you say, it will be crucial. You were talking about socialism units. Guess what? I'm also a socialist when it comes to this. 52 degrees on the track, David. That is blistering. Let's see how these tires hold up, because typically we do not see tires being taken in this Lotus 79.
Is that somewhere between 120, 130 Fahrenheit? It's absolutely the kind of temperature where you wouldn't walk barefoot across the concrete in the paddock. That's the kind of temperature it is. Very hot, very abrasive, and also very slippery. It means more slip angle for these cars that are dangerous when you get that tail out too far.
So, with 20 seconds left to go, it does look as though it is Mike Rasmussen and Matt Taylor who will share the front row. I have a feeling if you go down to 4 decimal digits, which I'm sure the iRacing Race Control does do, you will find that Rasmussen would have been marginally quicker. Qualifying done. Let's go ahead then. Trackside here in wine country and take a look at our starting grid in the HyperX Grand Prix of Sonoma. So here is your butt kicker starting grid for Graphics LC Motorsports. Mike Rasmussen will take us to the green flag, a 1:29.19, and you can see nothing between him and Matt Taylor on the outside of the front row. It's been a strong season for Aaron Morgan. He'll be inside of the championship leader, Sage Karam. What can he do on the outside of row number 2? Michael O'Brien, David Sirrah, they were very strong from Phillip Island. Not so easy for them from Mid-Ohio. They'll be looking for some good points with a relatively small grid here today. Chris Reagan in the purple and silver will be inside of Chris Fowler for the number 20 car. Fowler was so close to victory last time out in the Indy 250. Real-world Indy 500 driver back in the past, Richie Hearn, reliving some of the glory days in this Lotus 79. He'll be inside of Chris Staples on the edge of the top 10. Ricky Harding, DJ Clark, they share row number 6 with Trevor Malone in his teal number 34. 13th position inside of Alex Guyon for LeVois Motorsports. Paul Jenkins has had a very tough year by his own recognition as well, but he'll be inside of Caleb Benchy. They'll be on row number 8. Series organizer George Anzaldo, he'll line up in 17th with Craig Forsyth in 18th. Chris Lanini and Nick DeGroot on the edge of the top 20, the last cars to set a qualifying lap time. Ariel Alanis, Lionel Kalisto, and Robert Mikes will round out our 23-car grid. Not sure what it is with Sonoma and 23-car grids, but every single time the Lionheart Racing Series has come here to the Sonoma Raceway, we have had a 23-car field. As always, we have onboard looks with every single one of the drivers, but 4 that we should highlight. Of course, your pole sitter, he's got your HyperX on board. Mike Rasmussen, the 68, whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. Matt Taylor has the sim experience on board, makers of the AccuForce Pro V2 direct drive steering system. For more information, visit simexperience.com. Chris Lanini has the minus 273 on board. There's a little bit of an error there. We'll try and get that one fixed up for you in today's action. But Aaron Morgan has the Espos design on board. Get yourself a racing identity. Visit Espos Design on Twitter to learn more. David, so 50 laps here today. We mentioned that it would be a 2-stopper, but there is a very large fuel window which these drivers will be able to play with.
Yeah, we are thinking fuel will go 22, 23 laps or so, and that really just leaves you just a couple laps short of being able to get to that halfway point. So really, we could see someone pit lap 5 and then, you know, pit 22 laps later and be able to make it to the end. We could see drivers almost make it to that halfway and then pit with just 5 to go. Or we could see some teams and drivers try to split it equally into 3 even portions. We'll see what they do, but there is definitely the possibility to hold out and hang out for a very late pit stop, or to top up the tank real early, get out of the traffic. You have to think, in these really light cars, normally you'd want to run on as little fuel as possible. That'd mean that with no traffic, it'd be optimal to run long, but you never quite know what could happen on the lap 1, what could someone deep in the field do something different. Let's keep our eyes on that.
And of course, David, when it comes to running light on fuel, you could try something different. Well, And typically, you'd be able to try something different when it came to an open setup race. Maybe start with a little less fuel, split the race into two, 3 even stints, I would say. But here with a fixed setup, that's not an option. Drivers will start on a full tank of fuel.
Exactly, even fuel for everyone all across. So if you're out front and you're running away, I think you'll want to keep going, keep burning down that fuel. But it's from about 10th on back that someone who maybe didn't live up to their qualifying hype and is struggling to get through the pack might want to take an early stop just to do something different.
So this is the HyperX Grand Prix of Sonoma. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart. The front row is a bit of a surprise. Sage Karam, only 4th best in today's action, will enter into the start zone. There's almost a check up there as Karam runs into the back of Matt Taylor. It's a long hold from Mike Razmas. Green flag flies for the HyperX Grand Prix of Sonoma. Aaron Morgan already challenging for 2nd position as we get underway, and up the hill we go. You can see that Karam is having to defend from Michael O'Brien. Around the outside, there's contact between the two of them. O'Brien's off the road. Karam holds on to it for now, but out front, Razmas already 6/10 clear with Morgan, a rocket of a start. He's up into 2nd.
And so close between 2nd and 3rd there, you really struggle to go too wide. And oh, that is another big send down the inside. They continue to battle for 2nd and 3rd. And look at this, Sage Karam's going to get opportunistic as well.
Is that teammates coming together? I think it was. Taylor and Morgan might be sharing some words right now in their voice channel. Karam around the outside as we plunge down the hill, kicks up a bit of gravel. Behind him, Reagan is side by side with David Sirois. It's Karam up into 3rd, and after a rocket of a start from Aaron Morgan, he's going to get bundled down to 4th. Sirois gets the position on Reagan, at least for now. They get the power down very nicely. Gap out front, 1.6 seconds, David.
Yeah, so great start from Razmas. Could run whatever line he wanted through turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, all of that, while everyone else was still battling side by side, costing each other a bit of time. Before Michael O'Brien, he is back of the field right now. Very light contact early on, but once he ended off the paved stuff, there is no grip at all in that dust, sand, dead grass, whatever it is.
That's not what you want to see. That's Chris Fowler, I think, that's gone around. Has a slowdown to serve after cutting the inside of that final corner. Of course, there used to be a pit road, but he's now going to tumble down to 18th position. We'll try and get some replays on the start, but at least for now, it's Razmas in control. And I tell you what, Matt Taylor is going to have to look in his rearview mirrors for Sage Karam, because if Karam can get past Taylor, well, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd out on track. It's 2nd, 3rd, and 1st in the championship. And like I was saying, David, this is going to really be one of the key road courses to look at before we get into that season-defining run in the closing months of this championship.
So the tyres are definitely, at this point, starting to feel some of that temperature. It is cooled off a little bit since the end of qualifying, but still at 50 Celsius, still very, very hot, limiting the grip, causing the drivers to slide around a little more than they would like. And this is a great angle, shows you the gap your leader has got, but then this battle that is forming up over 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And Karam was so close to Matt Taylor not long ago. Now he's 8/10 back. Is he cooling his jets? Is he going to challenge later on, or is he just struggling to follow?
I would maybe postulate a little bit of all of it right now. Of course, no lead changes in any point in history in this Lionheart Retro Series competition at this racetrack. And I have a feeling with the gap holding steady at 1.7 seconds, are we in for something similar? It might be strategy that mixes things up. Let's go ahead and start by taking a look at what happened with Michael O'Brien. You'll see up the hill they go. It's the lightest of contacts for him. And, well, off he goes. Contact with the tire barrier. He's circulating in 21st position. But I have a feeling there is damage to his car, David.
Potentially. I'm seeing that his best lap... Wait, where was I looking for his best lap? I was just going to try to gauge if he's gotten that thing back up to pace. And the answer is his best lap is still in the 124s, 3 seconds off the drivers he qualified around, like Karam and Morgan.
Ooh, and that's a bit of a stack up into the hairpin at the end of the lap. That explains what happened to Chris Fowler. Let's jump on board with Christopher Reagan and Chris Staples, and take a look at the viewpoint from the 96 car. Just tries to send it deep under the brakes. Fowler tries to cover him off very late, and they do say, David, you can't move under the brakes. I don't necessarily think Staples is wholly responsible for that one.
I think Staples was coming in quite hot there and realized he was coming in too hot, tried to turn to the left, too late, and that's what made it kind of square on front to back contact. So, I mean, it was coming to the end of lap 1. It's always a tough, time when the traffic's still so stacked up like that.
I tell you what, we've been focusing a lot at the front. I've been noticing that for the battle on the edge of the top 20, it's really started to heat up. Chris Lanini and Robert Mikes have been scrapping it back and forth for 21st and 22nd positions. See, Michael O'Brien has gotten past Nick de Gruyter. Chris Fowler gets on past George Anzaldo, at least not just yet. He'll send it deep under the brakes. Down the hill they go, and the 20 gets on past. Michael O'Brien says, thank you very much, I'll have some of that too.
Well done, clean stuff. Another kind of blind apex there that you can't see until you've turned into it, and you sit even lower in these cars than you would, in a stock car or a touring car or a GT or anything like that. So some corners that you don't have perfect visibility of in some other cars are even trickier on board a machine like this. Suddenly these curbs that look a little bit high to other types of racing cars monster you when you're down this low.
You get that viewpoint as we ride on board with O'Brien, 13 positions down, but look at this. Aaron Morgan all over the tail end of Sage Karam. They are 1.7 seconds adrift of Taylor in second, and Taylor a further 1.6 behind your race leader, so it is starting to stretch out very slightly as Trevor Malone has gotten past DJ Clark. Clark, a rookie in the series who debuted with a bang, a podium at our first race at the Homestead Miami Speedway. He struggled since then and is trying to get his season back on track as we head towards the midway point of this season. 5 laps in the books, or rather 4 laps in the books as we work lap number 5. You can see there is an angry train forming behind the GSRC commentator.
Yeah, what a ferocious battle pack that one still is. Timing screen says Callisto ahead of Jenkins, and that is a big move from Lionel Callisto, who I think started at the very back of the grid with no qualifying time, and he's plus 7 positions, makes him the biggest mover in the field so far, just edging out Caleb Bench's 6 and Alex Gurion's 5 positions gained.
There you can see those movers and shakers. Of course, the big losers are Chris Fowler and Michael O'Brien with their early race incident. The word from race control is that Staples and Fowler racing incident. Nothing coming, at least for now. There will be a post-race review that the team at Lionheart does, so of course things might change, but you never know with things like this. Always, I mean, last time it was Sage Karam pushing Mark Cohn to the victory across the line, and for those who watched our coverage of the Butt Kicker Indy 250, you will have seen carnage as we came across the start-finish line on lap number 100. Fowler down the inside of Paul Jenkins, and now Michael O'Brien wants to try and follow suit. Lots of work for him to do. He's now 18 seconds behind the race leader.
So this, another one of those corners. Can you see the apex curb? Not until you're right on it in these cars, and then the same thing happens through this left-right flick here. You're following the left-hand side of the circuit, and then the apex appears like magic as you approach the crest, as you approach the corner, and you can struggle for braking markers, as we've just seen there. You can struggle for braking markers in some sections of this track.
That is bold to go around the outside, down the hill, and Paul Jenkins, well, he's down another position. Michael O'Brien continues his charge up the field. Of course, for those of you that watch the iRacing Rallycross World Championship here on the iRacing service, you'll head the other way up the hill when it comes to the World Championship that will get back underway later this year. It's a wonderful layout, not just for road racing. Of course, the stock cars come here, but great to have Rallycross action. Got the bowling ball that, of course, starts you in all of the races. Name the bowling ball because, of course, chaos always does like to ensue. Through the hairpin, you can see now Chris Staples is 3 and a bit seconds behind Richie Hearn in front of him. Hearn, of course, took pole position from Phillip Island, then had a bit of an issue, self-inflicted, and dropped down the order, but was looking very, very good for the former Indy 500 competitor. I must say, he'll be pretty excited, David, that for someone who lives in a rural part of the U.S., that he's now looking to get Starlink internet. For those who have watched coverage on the season, they will have seen Richie Hearn blinking in and out of existence. As soon as he gets that, I think he'll be pretty excited. Able to race a little bit closer. You know a little bit about what latency can do, being from the land down under.
Was that whole setup just to have a dig at my geography? I can't make the speed of light any faster.
I think you wish you did, and it wasn't a dig because, of course, sim racing's finest, at least if you ask me, Josh Rogers is, of course, from your neck of the woods, but he found himself having to traverse across to Germany in the Coanda team house in search, I think, partially, of being able to race that little bit closer in wheel-to-wheel action.
A 20-hour flight to save 200 milliseconds of ping, but, well, and I'm sure he enjoys and has been very, very successful in that endeavour. So even latency aside, I think it's the kind of move that he was looking for to further his sim racing career, and has definitely paid off for him being in that environment, being so closely integrated with the team.
And of course, Team House is becoming more and more popular as we jump on board with the front wing of David Siroy in his battle for 5th position. Not just Coanda that now has a Team House, but Altus Esports, which is a very fascinating topic for another day. But I did see Bo Albert, who has recently moved into that house, is streaming on Twitch. It's great to see that the internet issues that he's had over the years have somewhat resolved himself. And another driver we're talking about, Rallycross, who will be making a crack at those Rallycross World Championships. Nick de Groot has fallen to the tail end of the field, and I think, David, this is coming over the crest of turn number 1.
Well, let's have another look at it then, but you've mentioned it, that you come up the hill and then into a difficult braking zone, and the track is heated up once again. The track's as hot as it's ever been. The rear just let go. Was this a bad downshift potentially? Rear just decides absolutely no and sends him off. No contact, no giant leap across the curbs, just problem with the brake bias, too eager on the throttle. What do you see there?
That's an interesting one. It was hard to hear what the engine was doing, so potentially just trying to get on the power a bit too early to rotate the car, and the motorsports.com editor drops to the tail end of the field. He is now 6 seconds behind the cars in front. Of course, part of the factory-backed outfit in Lionheart Speedway Series competition that has been oh so impressive midway through. They have really taken that championship by storm. De Groot teammates with Robert Malechka and Alexis Newsom, the only multi-time winners in the Speedway Series so far. I see DJ Clark has been passed by Chris Fowler as both Fowler and O'Brien continue to work their way up through the field. Almost 10 laps into this one, David. I wonder if we'll see cars come down for an early pit stop to just get some track position.
You'd definitely consider that if you were Michael O'Brien, for example, because we know big pace, though also a bit of a big dig through the grass there is actually going to put him back under pressure from Craig Forsyth again. We know a lot of pace, and just stuck in the middle of this train that we've got from 12th through to 20th. I mean, Trevor Malone, Leonard Callisto, Chris Fowler, DJ Clark, Michael O'Brien, all of them just all stuck together in a train here, and Michael O'Brien could probably benefit from getting out of this. I think he could outpace these guys, because this train's doing 1 minute 23s, while your leader is doing 1 minute 21s.
And in fact, Razmas out front with one of the fastest laps, a 9.28. Only 2 drivers have broken into the 1 minute 20s. That is the 2 cars out front. As I say that, Sage Karam, a 129.50. He also becomes the next driver to break into that bracket. O'Brien down the inside as he gets on past DJ Clark. So Clark is sliding through the field, and I've noticed Ariel Alanis doing what we were talking about, down onto pit road, trying to find some track position.
Yeah, interesting. Not necessarily one of the drivers I thought could majorly benefit from this, but if you've got, you know, a problem or a tiny bit of damage or something, an early pit stop could help you. Weird sort of 2-part pit lane it is around here, but the fueling and the pit service is going to begin for Alanis. This is the train of cars from 12th on back, and for another lap in a row, Callisto digging up the dirt through the right-hander, and this time loses out the spot to Chris Fowler.
So Fowler now works his way even closer back into the top 10. You were talking about a weird pit lane. Even weirder the first couple of times when the NASCAR Cup Series came here, because the pit road could only accommodate 34 cars. So a number of drivers found themselves in what became known as Gilligan's Island, a makeshift pit road that was constructed inside of the hairpin. You actually got held even longer because it was a little bit shorter to roll yourself back onto track, but in general, not necessarily the place that you wanted to go. And now we've got the long pit road that's now to the left-hand side as You see the entry there, down into the final corner. Fowler sends it deep under the brakes, and I think Trevor Malone had a little bit of contact wheel to wheel there. O'Brien gets on through. Excuse me, that's Callisto getting on through, but side by side they continue to fight.
And this is always an interesting battle here. One car sort of has the inside through the sweeping left, and if the other car can hold it around the outside, they can get the inside for the right-hander. Wasn't able to do it, to hold on through the sweeping left uphill, and therefore Callisto couldn't get on past Trevor Malone. Michael O'Brien staring at the back of some cars that have been battling, that have been a little bit scruffy, and not able to immediately clear them and get past. It is catching one thing, passing another. This is an ambitious move to the inside there. That is a move that I was really surprised to see stick.
And in fact, I think Malone kind of blocks off the run for O'Brien, and maybe O'Brien will have a look down into the hairpin at turn 7. Nothing doing for now. Back out front, let's check in with your race leader, because he's not had much airtime so far. The gap behind now down to 1.5 seconds, so second and third in the championship. With Sage Karam in third, they won't necessarily reel in the championship leader, but consistent points are what you need to try and win championships, David.
Yep, precisely. A real holding station, it feels like, for the top 4. Rasmus not getting particularly far away, but also not being massively threatened by Matt Taylor at this point. Sage Karam has just settled into third, if you want to call that settled. And Aaron Morgan just holding within 2 seconds of him. So still only 5 seconds or so across all of our top 4 cars. It just doesn't feel like any of the gaps are shrinking or growing particularly rapidly. You look at the lap times for the top 3, and there was only 0.2 difference between them. DJ Clark, though, this lap isn't going to be great.
And I think, you know what, turn 1 has claimed another victim. Similar incident, but instead he spins to the inside, whereas De Groot was out to the outside portion of this track. Let's jump on board with the 65 car. And he's not even on the power, just weight transition and the momentum catching the HyperX racing driver off guard. And so now DJ Clark falls to just out of the top 20. He'll have some work to do to try and reclaim some positions as come back to the live pictures and jump forward to David Sirois and Chris Reagan. I see Sirois has got it on pass. Let's see now, 3 seconds behind the cars in front. That's a lot of time to try and make up.
Yeah, sure could be, especially with how consistent we're seeing the top 5 be. No giant swings, no giant changes at the moment. That's a good deal to get you up into 5th. A lot of positions changing around about that 11th and 12th. I think Fowler got ahead of Harden, and O'Brien just got ahead of Trevor Malone at about the same corner.
There you can see Fowler is indeed up into 11th spot as Ricky Harding gets demoted then to 12th. And in fact, I tell you what, left-hand side once more, let's bring up those movers and shakers, because Fowler, after the incident down into the hairpin, has really worked well to get himself back up forward. Seen a comment in the YouTube chat, David. This is definitely a track and a setup that you are steering with the pedals. And well, what does that mean for those who are maybe newer to racing? It really means that the way that you roll yourself onto the throttle and onto the brakes, and equally how you get off of those as well heading into corners, it is very important to maximize lap time.
Yeah, it just means a track and a car that's very sensitive to the weight transfer of the braking and the accelerating. This is a surprise. This is a little bit early from Sage Karam in third onto the pit lane, but what that's probably going to mean by going early is this is going to be a quicker stop, and in the middle stint he might have a little bit of clean air, a little bit of track position. It still might set him up for a longer second stop. And real polite professional racing driver there, because he's following the route that you'd get told to in the drivers meeting, not necessarily the shortest trip down the pit lane. Real quick stop there, and that might be what he's banking on to just get ahead of Matt Taylor, for example, and be a bother to him for this next stint.
Well, you can see it's not necessarily worked out the way that Karam would have wanted. 7.6 seconds stationary in the box. He's fed right out behind Trevor Malone, and in behind that battle that continues to rage on. The teal car kicks up some dirt on the exit of turn number 4. But I don't necessarily think that Karam thought he would feed right back out into a battle on track, David.
And only a second away from being ahead of these two cars. Now, he's knowing that they're going to have to pit in the next 6 or 7 laps. 6 or 7 laps behind these guys, if he's not able to get past them, will be very, very painful for his race. So we really were surprised, I was, to see him pit then. You could see how he could maybe work something out, but it's put him into a really, really awkward place traffic-wise.
Fastest lap powered by ATVO. It's Matt Taylor, a 1:28.66. So he's putting the pressure on to your race leader. The gap, though, is holding very, very steady as we jump on board with second place Matt Taylor, of course, with your sim experience on board. And it's always good being able to see the car in front of you, David. That's what we say when it comes to endurance races a lot of the time. But here in what is very much a sprint race, knowing that that car is not getting any closer is not always the nicest feeling at this point in the race.
Yeah, but if they have a bad corner, you'll see it and know not to do that. If they have a good corner and they get away from you, you might be a little disheartened. But it definitely means if you can see your opponent just 1.5 seconds up the road from you, you know that if your pit entry is good, your pit stops are good, you can still get right back into this fight. You know that you're still in the battle when you can see them after 15 laps just a second ahead of you.
1.3 as they come out of the hairpin. We jump on board with the HyperX on board and Mike Rasmus. As I see Michael O'Brien is slotted on past Ricky Harding in the 7. He was saying Hard in the Wall is his nickname, especially when it comes to the Twitch streams. He was hard in the wall in Indy 500 qualifying in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. Another fastest lap from Matt Taylor. This time it's a 28.60. What has happened to Sage Karam, though, down the road? He's been off the track, and I wonder if there's some damage to the front ring. You see Malone in the teal car is off there as well. There has to have been contact between the two of them.
Well, we are going to find out. We are going to dig into the truth. It might not even be related, or it could be. They just pushed wide, carrying the extra fuel, found a couple bumps in the outfield, and the rejoin has not worked at all. And there is contact. Huge crash for Malone, and it's all come from Karam pushing a little too hard, getting that aero wash, and then just not recovering it.
End over end for Malone. Not unfamiliar sight in the Retro Series. Those who watch the Butt Kicker Indy 250 will know what I'm talking about. Let's jump on board with Karam. A bit of the curb on the inside sends him shooting wide, and then over the bumps he goes. And like you said, David, the rejoin, it's good car control to hold on to that one, but I don't think Malone is going to be too thrilled about that contact. The 34 will be out of today's action.
It's amazing how such a small mistake, just a couple millimeters wide, gets two of the tyres on the grass, sees him further off the track, across the bumps, sliding back onto the track, unable to catch that slide comprehensively. And it leads to such a huge incident from he just carried a mile an hour too much in, maybe lost a bit of grip as he got up behind another driver. And these things just snowball.
I'll break
good rounded edges on the one on the left, but then you got a bit boxy for the one on the right. I prefer the left-hand style as you circle the damage to the front of this car for Sage Karam, and that's probably going to be a bigger problem drag-wise rather than losing the grip or throwing off the balance, because that's still a car that is massively oversteering, even with a loss of some of the front downforce. I think maybe the damage at the rear is even more severe.
Yeah, I was going to say, criticizing my yellow pen skills, I'll take it all because, let's be honest, they're not great, but there's side pods damage, there's rear wing damage. He's also been given, I think, some sort of incident responsibility for that contact race control right on top of things. So Sage Karam, in his championship hopes, it is looking very unlikely for a 6th win on the season. Let's see how he can fight back from this one. Of course, NTT IndyCar driver with Dreyer and Reinbolt Racing is also a representative of Coanda Simsport. Out front, gap continues to come down as Taylor brings up the heat, turns the afterburners to maximum. Now 1.2 seconds behind, going faster and faster as he burns off the fuel. It was a 1:27.96. Mike Rasmus almost 0.3 slower the last time around.
Yeah, so obviously a personal best and a fastest lap of the race for Matt Taylor. it's possible that as they burn through the fuel, the balance of the car changes that might favour some drivers' preferences more than others. There might be some drivers that are strong compared to the field when the car is full of fuel, but aren't so strong when the car is light on fuel, and vice versa. But I think what's really going on here is Matt Taylor knows approaching his first pit stop in a couple of laps time. Now is a great time to push. Now is a great time to close that gap, try to get it underneath 1 second, and then he can either jump Taylor through the pit stops if he can be just a second quicker through the pit lane, or just really get into somewhere an opportunity that he can put the pressure back on Rasmus around this very key time, around about the first pit stop.
I wonder who will blink first and come down, as this time it's Rasmus who goes fastest. A 6.87, a full tenth quicker than the car behind. So these guys are really trading lap times back and forth. And well, coming into this race, second and third in the championship with Karam down in 14th position, we didn't necessarily think that they were going to be able to claw back some championship points. But this will be crucial, because been some murmurs that maybe Sage Karam will get some runouts in the NTT IndyCar Series. Still 6 races to go in the 2021 campaign. After that 7th place, career best 7th place finish in the 105th running of the Indianapolis 500, Sage Karam looks to get back behind the wheel of the Dallara IR18. Also, I've noticed that these guys are 6 seconds clear of Aaron Morgan in third, and Morgan is going to be more concerned with the cars in his rearview mirror. I think David Sirra is trying to close the gap, but the 99 car, at least for now, a little bit too far behind. I wasn't sure if lap traffic was going to be a factor, but as you can see on the leftmost portion of that track map in the bottom right portion of the screen, there are about 3 cars, David, that are going to be a factor for Rasmus and Taylor, so it might not be the worst thing to come down onto pit road slightly earlier in this portion of the race.
Yeah, the pit lane delta is looking around 28 to 30 seconds, so then you see back from Rasmus, that would put him somewhere between Guyon and Benchy if he pitted early, which obviously he isn't. But if any of those guys deep in the field have been battling, have managed to, save a little bit of fuel to go a lap longer or something, what these top 2 have been belting around don't want to do is, even for just 1 lap, rejoin in the traffic.
If I'm Rasmus, I come down this time around, you can see you might get past the first of the lapped cars. I think that's Nick de Groot in the 89. He'll pull to the side of the track and make life very simple for your race leader. But now we will have Alanis and Anzaldo in front of him. De Groot, obviously, with his incident, has yet to come down pit road, but Anzaldo and Alanis have been 2 early blinkers, along with Karam coming down onto pit road. Let's see if Rasmus will come in this time around, as the gap now is 1.6 seconds and counting, because Taylor, I think, had a little bit of a harder time getting on past that lap traffic. Does he come down this time around? Yes, he does. Does Taylor follow him in? Of course he does. So the top 2 are down onto pit lane. This is where you have to hit your marks. No pit limiter in these cars, David.
So you've got to manually manage your speed down the pit lane so that you're not wasting time, but you're also not getting caught speeding on pit lane. It's all in the driver's hands, as our top 2 are on the pit lane. But like I thought, a few other drivers have been able to maybe slipstream, maybe save some fuel, maybe haven't been able to push flat out, have gone on a little bit longer. So where can these 2 rejoin, and how much fuel are they going to take at this stop? Because you could take a short splash now and then take a longer stop later, but that looks pretty close to a full drop to bring the tanks back up to capacity.
Well, interesting to note that first, we officially have a lead change here from Wine Country, the first ever in Lionheart Retro Series competition. But you'll also notice it's 1.2 seconds quicker in the box for Matt Taylor in the 8 car, so the gap has closed down. It is under a second. I would expect that to flip on around in the second portion of the race and that second pit stop, but of course that's going to be a much shorter pit stop than we saw this first time around, because it will be effectively be a splash and dash, David.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about, is the drivers had the freedom right now to, take the splash now and then fuel it long, or, decide with that wide open pit window with a lot of flexibility how much fuel they wanted to take at this stop and at the second stop. It does seem like they wanted to go longer, and following one lap after, a lot of other drivers are on the pit lane. It's the busiest it has ever been.
Morgan, Sirwa, Reagan, Richie Hearn, they are all down onto the lane, and well, I don't think they could really extend the stint much further as we tick away lap 21. Mike Rasmas and Matt Taylor will re-inherit first and second positions as Morgan gets into his box in the 48 car. Been impressive on the road courses so far this season. He dropped 7.1 seconds stationary. And as Chris Fowler and Michael O'Brien continue to stay out there on their recovery drives, Aaron Morgan cycles right behind them. 1 second then between the top two. Let's see if Matt Taylor is able to continue that fine form he had in the middle portions of that stint, because he was very, very rapid. Rasmas did pick up the pace in the closing stages when this car really becomes a rocket ship, David.
Yeah, precisely. That's going to bode well for the final couple of laps stint as well, where they should, get light around about lap 40, lap 42, and then have a light run all the way to the end after that as well. So if Matt Taylor can, keep the pressure on now and be good when the car gets lighter on at the end of this stint, there's quite a lot more light running to come in this race compared to that start where they were, fully bloated. This is a super light car. And so, as a percentage of its weight, the fuel is far more than a stock car, far more than a modern Indy car as well.
I think Rasmas got a bit loose there. Taylor locks up as he sent it deep under the brakes, but gap now 0.6 of a second. The fight is well and truly on as Fowler is down onto the pit road. He's followed in by O'Brien. That will cycle Sirrah into fourth. Callisto's down onto the lane as well. So a number of cars extending one lap longer than maybe we thought they would do at this portion of the race, but really all eyes are out front, where this battle for the race lead is going to be something to behold, because these are two drivers that have been very consistent on the season so far, been very strong at times, and they're just usually sticking around there in the top 10, the top 5, making sure they get all the championship points they need to try and fight a driver who is as successful in the Retro Series as Sage Karam. 37 starts, David. Sage Karam, 18 wins in his Lionheart Retro career.
Even I can tell you that is greater than 50%, but it'll probably be... today doesn't look like it's going to be a win for him. A weather update as well is the track has gotten hotter again. The weather is officially partly cloudy, but you can see those clouds are not blocking the sun right now. It is 130 Fahrenheit. I did the sums, or I made a computer do the sums for me, so that is super baking hot, and the longer we go on, I think you'll see that drivers who maybe manage their tyres a little bit could be stronger later on as well, because it's just a lot of laps on a very hot track.
Last time around, Taylor was 0.2 quicker than the car in front, so I tell you what, if the move is coming, it's not going to be too far away, as over the top of the crest, Rasmas really gets the hammer down and drifts that car out, but rolls his momentum. Off into the grass goes Taylor. That's just how hard these two are pushing as they plunge down the hill into the middle sector of the lap. It really is a battle of first to keep your car on the track, David, then to fight wheel to wheel.
Yeah, so it's not just the track heating up, it's this battle as well, and both of them went 20 laps on the fuel in the opening stint. A bunch of other drivers went 21, but the drivers, the longest range, 22 laps for Robert Mikes and Paul Jenkins and Lionel Callisto. So maybe they will get a little bit of reward much deeper in the race at that final pit stop, having been so economical and long-ranged in this opening stint.
Taylor is looking so comfortable into turn 12, that final corner. It's going to be, at this time around, one more lap until the halfway point, and really what we're seeing is that as Nick de Groot comes down onto pit road, he may, he's one lap down, may be able to do it on just one more stop. That might get him some positions. It's not going to be a huge points day for the 89 car, but maybe a top 15 would be a wonderful achievement after his earlier self-inflicted mistake. These two, though, I really must say they are strong at different points on the track, and there's only, if you ask me, 2 major passing opportunities. Of course, you can pass at every single point on this track if you want to be bold, David. But when you're in a battle for a championship, you want to keep things as safe and clean as you can do. Therefore, turn 7 and turn 11, the 2 hairpins, that's where the move will likely come.
Yeah, other places we have seen moves happen is turn 2 at the top of the hill, turn 4, that sharp right-hander. We even saw a move into the carousel at turn 5. That was a great move that Trevor Malone stuck. Unfortunately, he's our only retirement from the race so far. So it was a bit of an excitement machine around that mid-pack battle in the opening stint. 22 of 23 starters still run. A shame that we have lost Trevor Malone, but on the brakes and to the apex and through this hairpin, it looked really good for Matt Taylor until the rear got squiggly there. He just seems to brake really well. The car looks so stable, and then he hooks that inside of the hairpin and it just follows cleanly around, not like Rasmus where the car looks a little slidey and maybe as he starts to turn into the corner it looks like it gets a little unsteady on him. Taylor just looks glued through there, but then right up behind his rival might have got a little excited, got a little too keen on the throttle, and it might have cost him the opportunity to attack up into turn 2.
And maybe overheated his tires very slightly. You can't really afford to slide your tires too much in this car, because when you then go to call for all 500 horsepower, it might just snap on you, as we've seen on occasions. This time again, a little bit too far behind. But really, I'm now wondering, David, if what we're seeing is Taylor's car, because he put in a little bit less fuel in that first pit stop, he's now into rocket ship mode just slightly earlier. We saw Rasmus very strong at the end of the stint. Give it a couple more laps. Rasmus will be right back on the pace.
Saw him wide through 7 there, but then still managed to pick up some decent speed. I think this is where the move looks like it could happen for Taylor, because he looks so strong on the brakes here. If he was just a little bit closer, that is where he could attack Rasmus. Smoother on the throttle this time, and it's half a second between our top 2. I wonder what the sweats look like for our 2 leading drivers, because they are so much in lockstep, pressure on each other, and any mistake so costly at this point.
Not just them that are having a close battle. There's Chris Reagan and Richie Hearn, 4/10 separating 5th and 6th positions. It's been good days for them. I see Sage Karam is still in that 7th spot despite all of the drama that he's had, as you see those movers and shakers. It's right now Lionel Kalisto, the biggest of the movers, up 10 on the day so far. Still trying to work his way into the top 10, and another solid points haul in not just the Retro Series but across of Lionheart competition. Getting word from race control that a drive-through penalty has not been served for Karam just yet. They'll have a penalty to be determined post-race, so that explains Karam's high running position, at least for now, and we'll see if maybe the closing, or rather I should say post-race, things will maybe change around. Once more, it does look like the run from turn 3 through turn 7 is where Rasmus is just a little bit stronger. Here under the brakes into the final corner, that's where Taylor closes up once more. We're halfway through the race, David. This is an interesting battle for the race lead.
It's the different parts of the track with a different character. You know, you've got the really flowy turn 3, turn 4 bits. Bad to worse for Sage Karam. That's more fresh damage on the rear wing there, as well, as he's well off the track in a new place now. He's definitely found the wall with that.
Oh, it looks like he's sideways coming out of turn 7. I was saying, oh, and into the tire wall he goes. I was saying that if you heat up those tires just that little bit too much, it will snap on you when you call for the power. I think that's what's happened to the driver of the 2. There you can see, lights up the rear end. Wibble wobble, he goes into the wall, and well, around and around into the tire barrier, and well, there's more significant damage to the rear end. I would suspect Karam comes straight down onto pit road.
Yeah, that is what he has done, and it's sitting there, and he is not in it.
So Sage Karam will have to fight back. This was a road course where I thought that Karam would be as strong as he's been throughout the season so far, but no luck so far in this action, and at least has not left the session just yet. Oh, Taylor locks up, almost rear ends Rasmus for the race lead. That will open the gap back up. It's now 1 second as they're closing on lap traffic once more here, David.
I think he was going to run up the back of him, and then that's when he locked up. We had to put more brake in and had to go straight on. So they got really close. They're starting to catch a little bit of traffic, and then Matt Taylor's just been caught out behind Rasmus. Made a mistake there.
That is Robert Mikes in the 17 that's in front. Should be a good opportunity here to pull to the side as we come in through turn 5. This right-hand sweeper that leads you into that downhill left-hand corner that we've seen some very bold moves around the outside. And in fact, I don't think the traffic was as cooperative as Rasmus would have wanted, because the gap now is back down to 0.5 of a second.
Not sure it massively helps Matt Taylor either though, but now he does look a little bit close. I thought it was going to compromise his track out off the exit. What I am seeing is these, high-speed corners flowing the speed. You're right, that's where our leader is fastest. And Taylor, is it the brake balance? Is it the way he does the downshifts? Just seems so much more confident, braking hard in a straight line, getting through the tight corners, and then braking deep in a straight line like he's going to do all the way around the outside at the hairpin.
No way around the long way, at least for now, but you can see Rasmus knows that into that final corner, that's where Taylor is strong. Across the start-finish line on lap 30 of today's action. You're watching RaceSpotTV and ESTV for coverage of the Lionheart Retro Series. This is the HyperX Grand Prix of Sonoma. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back in a few moments' time. Welcome back to Wine Country and round 9 of the Lionheart Retro Series. It's been a fascinating opening 30 laps here in the Sonoma Raceway, but with 20 laps to go, the battle for the race lead is well and truly on. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Alongside for today's action is David Haynes. The battle is between Mike Rasmus and Matt Taylor. They sit second and third in the championship. They've gone side by side into this hairpin the last couple of laps. They're coming up on lap traffic, and really, David, this battle has been oh so close for the entirety of the race. Taylor is coming on strong as we enter the second pit window.
Yeah, I've loved watching it. It has gotten oh so close, especially in the braking zones. It's that middle pedal that Taylor really seems to have the strength on, closing up in some of these braking zones. And you've seen Rasmus defend into the hairpin lap after lap, even preemptively. He just gets one lane to the inside. I reckon Taylor just keeps attacking around the outside for a couple laps, and then one time he'll spring a surprise and he'll get to the extreme inside. And I think if he can do that, if he can get side by side with Rasmus and on the inside at that hairpin, that is where he'll really get under the skin, really be able to potentially get around Rasmus.
And these guys are about 8 seconds clear of Aaron Morgan, who did take victory at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park back in April, round 4 of this championship. There's only been 3 winners on the season so far. Sage Karam with 5. Mark Cohen has won both of our Triple Crown races, first at Pocono and last time from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And of course Morgan with the victory north of the border. This time around a little bit too far behind for Taylor in the HyperX car. And as the YouTube chat is pointing out, Mike Razmas is really not wilting under the pressure, because Taylor has been lap after lap since that pit stop window, taking advantage of what we believe, David, is a slightly lighter car, but Razmas has held firm. The gap's still 0.4 of a second.
And here's your wine country weather report. It is hot. It is baking on the track. It's now up to 132 Fahrenheit. That's a lot. Or it's 55.6 Celsius. That's definitely burned the soles of your feet. I'm not sure if that's quite crack an egg and watch it cook temperature, but that is just, really slick, really low grip conditions. And you can see places like here where the track is beginning to rubber in a little bit more, but that just means it soaks up more heat from the sun as well. So dynamic track, some of those bits could be really hot, even hotter in places than the official reading.
Through the S's, Razmas lit up the rear tires coming out of turn 7. Does this open the door for the pass for the race lead? Oh, there's understeer as Taylor is so close to the rear end of your race leader, and a little bit too far behind as a result of that little bit of an error to try and take advantage. But for the first time, we saw the unflappable Razmas making a small mistake, and at this point, I do wonder, David, which one of these cars will come down onto pit road slightly earlier and blink. You had mentioned the pit stop window anywhere between 28 to maybe 35 seconds. If these guys came in a couple of laps' time, they would be in plenty of clean air in 7th spot.
Yeah, and there's a couple of drivers who've already cleared their final pit stop, seen that window open and then just fueled it to get to the end. Maybe just hoping to do something different. And the lead of them, Chris Staples in 13th, is fueled to get to the end, having pitted 2 laps ago. And then deeper in the field, Craig Forsyth, George Anzaldo and Ariel Alanes are all fueled to get to the end. So that could work out for Staples if if the drivers in front of him battle and fight or have any issues, or if he can really use the clean air. Struggling for the traction again, Rasmus. Now, if Taylor can just not pick up that understeer, or maybe just breathe the throttle a little bit to help the car rotate, once again, the unflappable Rasmus is now downgraded to just flap resistant.
I'm loving some of the humor here, and you know what? He's got the run to the inside. He's going to try and cover him off, but there you go. It's Matt Taylor in the 8 to the race lead. Rasmus does not fight that one as hard as we've seen in the past. That's the first on-track pass for the race lead in 3 years of visiting wine country. Taylor will try and run away, and I do wonder if maybe we'll see him come down onto pit road later than the car behind now, because clean air is so important. We saw him make that mistake. Now it's Matt Taylor at the pointy end of the field.
Great move, did what he needed to do. Rasmus wanted to defend it, but I just didn't have the speed there. And then around the outside, he just knew that was one corner that Taylor was noticeably stronger than him. So that was one that had been, 15 laps in the making? That move, you could smell it happening, and it just took a long enough run, a hot enough track, that eventually the rears gave out for Rasmus, and he just couldn't get the drive off the second of the right-hand apexes here, where he so desperately needed it. Right here, a lot of steering input still needed, trying to open up the power, and he just couldn't do it as well as Taylor behind. Taylor so good in these sort of square it off, stop, turn, go corners. Let's see if Rasmus can still hang with him through the fast, smooth stuff, through the 4th gear corners, through the 5th gear corners. He's not being shaken, he's not being left in the dust just yet.
He's not, he's done very well this lap to try and keep that gap. I was just taking a look at the series stats and the history for both of these drivers. For Razmas, 20 career starts. For Taylor, 17. Only Taylor is, though, considered a rookie in this season, and those rookie championships that Taylor has almost a 70-point lead. They both do have a victory, but, it didn't come on a road course. It came on ovals for both of them. Motegi for Taylor in the race lead now, and the Worldwide Technology Raceway, also known as Gateway for Mike Razmas. That was back in Season 4 for the both of them, and Season 5 has been a breakout year for them as they try and work on the championship. Sage Karam with 5 victories on the season. Unlucky in some ways to have been crashed out of today's action, but slightly all self-inflicted if we're being honest, David. Both of the incidents, first with Trevor Malone and then by himself coming out of turn 7. It was all done by himself, and potentially his right foot just being a bit too overeager.
Yeah, we've seen on board, particularly in this lead battle as well, that actually on this super hot track, corners like this right-hander here that, you know, ought to be flat out or near flat out, you can pick up quite a bit of understeer. This is a big move onto pit lane.
Seems like he heard what I was saying and decided to prove me wrong. So Taylor is down, and with just under 15 to go before Tino's Razmas crosses the line, maybe we're seeing the result of the slightly shorter stop that he did. I also maybe just question if he's feeling his tires very much at the edge of their temperature window. This will be an opportunity, David. Come down onto pit road. He's not necessarily going to change the tires, but they'll get a little bit of respite on pit road.
Yeah, it's sort of well known that you heat up the tires beyond a certain point, they start to get bit mushy, bit slidey, and as they continue to slide, they continue to heat up, and you end up in that sort of vicious spiral. Just that 30 seconds along pit lane there, you can just get the tires back to where you might want them, let them cool off a little bit, and then if you're nice to them for the next couple laps, that's better than, you know, how much on track you really have to back off, really give away to stop the sort of thermal runaway that almost starts to take place beyond a certain point, particularly when the track remains 132 Fahrenheit.
8.4 for Taylor in the box, so there's the slightly longer pit stop that we expected, as Chris Fowler and Michael O'Brien on their recovery drives are down onto the lane for their final stop. They're looking at top 10 finishes for the both of them. They'll be thrilled after opening lap incidents, and still a long way to go. Last time for Mike Razmas, it was a 1:28.31. He improves very slightly to a 27.78. This is where he has to take advantage of the low fuel load that he's got, and really the rocket ship of a car that he seems to have underneath him. It will be a sprint now for him until the end, just like Michael Schumacher had to do back in the day. Qualifying laps will be the name of the game as David Sirra is down onto the lane. I see a number of cars have elected for their final stop. It wasn't just Taylor, but Aaron Morgan has come down the last time around as well. So clearly this is an interesting call and something that these drivers are all on the same page about, David.
Yeah, Fowler and Michael O'Brien as well, two other drivers that have been excitement magnets, particularly right early in the race, and then were in the pack battling back to what you might consider their rightful positions. Caleb Fowler now only 2 positions down, and with a strategy advantage, having cleared all of his pit stops compared to some around him. Michael O'Brien, is that making a move on the traffic? I think it was.
Believe that's Robert Mikes in the 17. He's been very courteous to lap traffic at a track where there are a number of corners that really are single file and very difficult to let the faster cars go on past. Richie Hearn has gotten past Chris Reagan, by the way. They are still out on track. Let's see if either of these cars will blink earlier, as this time around Razmas goes even faster. It's a 6.21. It is the fastest lap of the race so far. We will wait and see what the lap time is for Matt Taylor then, because of course with heavier fuel it will be much trickier for him to try and match that pace. And well, undercut, overcut, it's always an interesting talking point about what's going to work better. I have a feeling the undercut is not going to work out as Matt Taylor was thinking.
No, Razmas has just caught a bit of traffic on this particular lap, but for Matt Taylor, you know, it's worked so hard for all of that track position, and then, you know, had to pit or decided to pit immediately after, when we've seen how equal they were on track. Taylor's really got to work so hard to hold on to this for the next couple of laps.
That lap traffic that you were talking about, David, I've seen that Razmas, at least indicated by my timing screen, might have lost a full second, as I believe it might have been Ricky Harding is the car that he had to work on past. So he stays out there, and let's see what the lap time is going to be this time around. Don't think it's going to be as quick as it was a 1:26.21. This time it is a 1:21.844. So with more lap traffic in front of him, he's going to have to be very clinical to work his way past. I think that's Chris Staples now next up the road.
Is that one of the reasons Taylor might have pitted early, as he saw all this traffic they were going to start catching, and all these cars that have made one pit stop in front of them, some that have made 2 pit stops. So there's some cars in front of them that have made 2 pit stops already that they, weren't going to, pit the same time and get out of their way. So I might have been gambling on the long game here, that there was going to be a lot of traffic for 10 laps or so, and there is, but it's always a gamble of, is it traffic that costs you 1/10 or is it traffic that costs you a second? Hard to know, but at the minute, the gap 28.5 between your leader Rasmus and Matt Taylor, and that is just still right on the edge of what we think the pit delta ought to be.
There you can see last time for Taylor an 8.79, so a full second quicker. Then the race leader, of course, was mixed up in the traffic. Rasmus is coming through the final corner. I'm watching the lap time for him because really we thought it might have worked out nicely. It will be 10 to go across the line this time around for your race leader. It's a 28.17, so they are matching lap times back and forth. It's going to be neck and neck coming out of pit road, David.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a perfect pit stop for Rasmus. We've seen, the pit entry is its own braking zone, is its own corner there. It is real challenging as now we ride on board with Matt Taylor to see what kind of time he can respond to with. On this lap, 20.8 for Rasmus, as we saw. Matt Taylor, it's a 20.8. So they are now separated by a pit stop, but banging in near identical lap times, like they did for a whole stint earlier in this race.
And one lap and one bad, just unlucky moment with traffic might really be the deciding moment in this race, because for Taylor, he is really looking like he might be inside the pit stop delta for Rasmus. He might cycle back to the front. It will be 9 to go for Rasmus. He's working lap 20, so pit stop will be imminent for the race leader. Doesn't come this time around, but have to think he is down the next time around for the minimal amount of fuel that he'll be able to put into his car. This will be an important lap time to make sure he's made no mistakes. It looks like it's been quite a good one as he comes to the line. It's a 25.69, fastest lap to the 68 car. He is turning up the wick right at the perfect time.
Yeah, this is the lightest he'll run the car all race long, because it's probably looking like his in-lap or his final flying lap of this stint before he's got to pit for fuel again. So aggressive across turn 3A and then through turn 4 to the apex and using just a little bit of the curb on the exit. This is a critical lap. The last one was really quick. He's looking good and precise, but aggressive at the same time on this lap. Knows what's at stake, that it's got to be a perfect in-lap, perfect pit stop, perfect out-lap. If he can hold on to the lead and he's more than a second or a second and a half clear of Matt Taylor, I just don't know if Taylor's got it in him to be able to catch and pass again, knowing it sort of took 15 laps in the making the first time. We don't have that kind of time left.
That's Nick de Groot in front of your race leader. As you can see, Matt Taylor is coming around the left-hand sweeper. Rasmus, I think, is down this time around. Indeed, he is. It will be an 8-lap shootout for victory in this HyperX Grand Prix of Sonoma. Rasmus all the way to the line, pushing that car to its limit. And now, the most crucial of pit stops. Both of these drivers hunting for their second win in this Lotus 79. Matt Taylor, he's coming through the S's, looking very rapid, I think.
The number 8 on your track map there, sort of coming towards the hairpin, the left of the track map. Meanwhile, Rasmus about to hit his box. It's the pole sitter's box. He's taking on board the fuel right now. It is going to be close, but he's rolling. He's away. He's back out on track now. He's going to hold on to the lead when everyone else has to pit.
It was a 5.3 second pit stop, David. I mean, we thought it would be shorter. We didn't think it would be that much shorter. The gap between the two of them, it is almost 4 full seconds.
Yeah, it's 3.8 as they now start to come to some of those timing lines. So indeed, a much quicker stop for Rasmus than for Matt Taylor. By about now, though, they should be carrying a very similar weight of fuel, and it just means holding on for 7.5 more laps. There's a couple drivers still in front yet to clear their final stop. That's Richie Hearn and Chris Reagan, but when they do, that'll cycle Rasmus back through to the lead.
Must say, it's always weird calling someone like Richie Hearn a rookie at times, but he is very much experienced in real-world racing. Great to see him competing here on the sim as well, part of the wonderful Lionheart Racing Series. It is going to be Rasmus who will also have his tires just a little bit cooler, because Taylor has really been flogging that car around for the last 7 laps or so. It will be 7 at the line. He's got some lap traffic to deal with as Richie Hearn and Chris Reagan are down onto the lane for their final stop. Rasmus and Taylor now running first and second once more, but now 3 seconds separating them with 7 laps to go. He was unflappable midway through the race as Matt Taylor goes fastest, a 1:25.14. I think Rasmus is very much just going to have to use that same energy, that same consistency to take him to the checkered flag. He should hopefully make his way into the HyperX victory lane.
Whoa, wide and then scruffy for Matt Taylor. So what was a 3.8 second gap is now looking 4.1, 4.2. Still could come down because the last lap was decent for Taylor. We know there's still some fight and some anger there, but it's getting towards the point of he's going to need to find, 0.8 of a second per lap on Rasmus. There's not a whole lot of traffic coming up for either of them. The unstoppable sands of time, that lap count ticking down, is going to be Rasmus' saviour here, I think.
I think you're right. But just taking a look at my notes as well on these drivers, not just in this competition, but both of these guys very much involved in Lionheart competitions. They've been very busy recently because the month of May represents the real world in their visits to the Indianapolis 500. In Lionheart competition, especially in the Indy cars, the month of June is our trip to Speedway, Indiana. Of course, the Indy 250 preceded the Indy 500 in that Indy car competition, where Adam Blocker, on his quest for, I believe it's a 5th consecutive title there, continued his amazing run of top 5 finishes. The last time Blocker finished out of the top 5 in a Lionheart IndyCar Series race was back in September of 2020. Just keep that in your mind, given how busy IndyCar competition is going to be. 22 races in 2021, and we're only 6 laps away from getting through to the halfway point of this championship, David. And really, we talked about the schedule earlier. When it comes to the road courses, watch out, I think, for Rasmus and Taylor. They are looking very strong and confident here. They'll hope to carry this momentum forward to the back half of the season.
Did I see Motegi, the road course or the oval coming up in the championship? Because just seeing what we've had from Matt Taylor, the sort of first gear corners where he's been really strong, the really squared off braking zones. Motegi road course is made up entirely of those. He'd be strong there. Motegi oval is a very interesting track. I do love those sort of egg-shaped ovals where you've got sort of a tighter corner at one end and a more open one at the other. It's a characteristic that Motegi and Gateway both have.
It is the oval, and that's of course where Taylor took his first victory in Retro Series competition last year. So 113 laps, 175 miles will be live on air. I believe that is July the 22nd. So a couple of weeks from now, the drivers will get an off week to relax, because this is by no means, you called it a roller coaster at the start of the show, David. It really is. These drivers will be soaked in sweat come the end of 50 laps.
Yeah, indeed, the consistency and the pace, and even though the track has gotten hotter, we saw Taylor and Rasmus trade the fastest lap of the race not long ago. So, hours into this race, and they're still able to sort of raise the benchmark, as it were.
We're on board with Michael O'Brien as Fowler locks up. Of course, these two cars have been fighting their way through the field almost lockstep, and now squabbling over 7th position. It will be A disappointment for O'Brien, given he started up there in the top 5, but for Fowler, he's actually 1 position gained on the day, so just an indication of how strong the race pace was for the 20 car. Talking about the back half of the season, we are about to enter a run of 5 consecutive oval races. It will then be 3 consecutive road course races to head into our final round of the Triple Crown and the final round of this 2021 season from Fontana. So a return to California, 250 miles. That will be a thriller, but a long way to go. Is on board with O'Brien. Not so much understeer. He looks to the inside. He will send it under the brakes. Fowler gives him just enough racing room, and once more the inside prevails as Fowler hangs the rear end of that car out around. It's Michael O'Brien up to 7th position.
Good move, clinical move. Looked early, but not so early that it could be covered off. And then great work on the brakes. No real hint of a lockup, no hint of sliding past the apex, just precision at the apex there, close to the tyre bundles and on the curbing, and then picked up the throttle well. It does appear that if you're a car width wide or so, around the outside of that final hairpin, you really can't get the traction open very well at all. There might be a lot of marbles out there, I think.
I think you're right, and marbles, I was having a conversation earlier today when it comes to racing at Indianapolis. Marbles on the outside, not necessarily as effective as they might be in the real world, so we see a slightly different style of racing as what we saw, of course, in the HyperX Indianapolis 500. I would just like to point out, David, with 3 laps to go as Razmas comes across the line, the real-world lap record at this 2.52 mile configuration of the Sonoma Raceway was set back in 2004, of course set by the monstrous Audi LMP1 cars driven by Marco Werner, a 1:21.688. The fastest lap of today's race, a 1:20.514. It gives you just an indication of, first, the power that these Lotus 79s have, but also the quality that we've got at the front of this field.
So 10th difference between a classic, old school but ferocious open wheeler and what was a more modern, before they went diesel, endurance prototype. What an interesting comparison to make. Different speed, different characteristics in many ways, but all of it ending up to very similar lap times around this track. Taylor's just gone and improved the fastest lap of the race, and not even by a tiny amount, 1:20.2.
My goodness, he has really turned up the wick.
It's all there, but it's all too late.
And it's ultimately strategy that's cost him here, David. It wasn't anything on track, no mistakes, slipping through. It was just the call to come down earlier, and we're unsure as to whether maybe he had a little bit less fuel, but given how long his first pit stop was, I'm a bit surprised he didn't stick that car out there for a few more laps, given that he was in the race lead when he came onto pit road.
Yeah, there might need to be a little bit more number crunching about the fuel consumption, about the calculations of how much to take, because you had the pit stops together. It does seem like Taylor might have spent a little bit longer on pit lane in total. It's because he's been more of a lead foot? Is it because he's taken a more cautious amount? Is it because he maybe doesn't get it square in the pit box as well and the crew have to shuffle around for a second?
I think I actually saw Taylor slide through his box on the second one and have to readjust himself. White flag in the air. It's 2.5 miles left to go for Mike Razmas. It will be a second victory in this championship. And as well, after starting the race in second position in the championship with Sage Karam, one of our 3 retirements, well, things really are going to be blown wide open in the championship hunt. Karam has been very brutally honest with us in the interviews that we've got with him, David. He's got one focus on his mind, at least when it comes to sim racing. That's winning a Lionheart championship as we head into the back half of the season. He's going to have to make sure he's consistent because both the 68 and the 8 are ready to pounce.
Yeah, exactly. A DNF, never a great thing in your championship run, really opens up the door for your rivals to score big points and create a big differential between themselves and you. But, from pole position, This has been a very steady drive. 99% unflappable Mike Rasmus.
And maybe the 1% was just realizing he didn't have to fight too hard. Maybe he knew things would cycle out his way. 50 laps here from Sonoma. For the first time, we had lead changes in this Lionheart Retro Series, but it's the 68. It's Mike Rasmus that will come out on top. A second career victory. He wins the HyperX Grand Prix of Sonoma. What a day it was, and what a battle, not just between Taylor and Rasmus, but some other cars as well. We didn't really watch them too intently because, well, that battle for the lead was something to behold, but really, the story of the race is Rasmus and Taylor making their championship intentions known with 9 rounds still to go. We will head into a stretch of a number of oval races before we kick off 3 back-to-back road courses to head into our season finale from the Auto Club Speedway. And David, your first opportunity to watch the Lionheart Retro Series. How exciting was the action we saw today? These Lotus 79s are always something to behold.
Yeah, they're a quick car. They make a very, very exciting noise, and there's just enough of a strategy edge to them as well. But we also saw in this fixed setup that when you get a handful of good drivers, they are very, very equal. And I loved seeing Matt Taylor be able to make a move on track, but also that it took him a couple laps to feel it out, set it up, and be able to do it cleanly. Just a great balance between really having to work for all of your moves, but also the field being, close enough together and there's no free positions, no gimmies racing a car like this, especially in weather like this, around a great track like Sonoma.
No donuts. I mean, well, a bit of a disappointment because Rasmus has earned the right to burn the house down. He will make his way into HyperX victory lane and up here into the comms booth to talk to us very shortly. The top 2 cars separated by 3 seconds. Aaron Morgan, well, he was 18 seconds, 19 seconds behind the race leader, but it's great for the entire championship 9 rounds in to finally have a 4th different winner on the campaign so far. Here are your Knox race results. It is the Graphics LC Motorsports car that is in victory lane in the road courses for the first time this season. Avatar Auto Racing, they continue a very strong campaign with 2nd and 3rd rounding out the podiums. David Sirott, we said he would be strong on the road courses. He delivers with a 4th place finish here today. Great to see Richie Hearn up there in 5th. His teammate Chris Reagan only 7/10 behind in 6th, with Michael O'Brien recovering to get on past Chris Fowler. He ends up in 7th position. Fowler will be in 8th with Lionel Callisto and Chris Staples rounding out the top 10. Great drive for Callisto, one of the biggest movers. 13 positions gained on the day. Lavoie Motorsports' Alex Guyon will be the final car on the lead lap with Caleb Benshi, Paul Jenkins, Craig Forsyth and Ariel Alanis rounding out the top 15. Ricky Harding, George Anzaldo, DJ Clark, Chris Lanini round out the cars that finish 1 lap down. For Nick de Groot, he tried to make it on just 1 stop, but unfortunately had to come back down onto pit road in the closing stages. He'll be 2 laps down before we get to our retirees, Robert Mike, Sage Karam, and Trevor Malone. Of course, for Karam as well, you would wonder if maybe there is some pain to be served later on in the season. I don't think a penalty will come down this time. It might be an end of line for the next round from Motegi. But now let's make our way down to HyperX victory lane and into the HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that is LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. Let us bring in the man himself, his 2nd career victory in Lionheart Retro Series competition, Mike Rasmus. That was a thrilling battle with Matt Taylor, but ultimately it was pit strategy that took you to the victory.
Yeah, how about that? That's awesome. I'm so happy about this. I practiced a lot this week. Matt Taylor is so fast at this track, and I thought after he pitted, I got caught behind some lap guys, and I thought maybe I was done for. But then, the cycle came through, and I was ahead by enough to stay ahead of him. So super proud of that drive. Really, really happy to win on a road course on merit, and yeah, just happy to be here.
And I mean, in terms of the championship picture, Mike, it's looking quite good for you and Taylor as well, because Sage Karam finished second to last in today's action, and potentially a penalty coming for a future race. You know, when we head to the final 4 races of this championship, we're going to have 3 of those, other than the final round of Auto Club, on the road courses. This must fill you with confidence, knowing the championship swing is going to be played out turning left and right.
Yeah, for sure. All season, I've really been trying to have consistent finishes, top 5s, and it's always, you know, P4, P5, which is good, and I'm happy about that. But I'm really starting to want to get some wins like this and some podiums.
For the team as well, it's been a very fun run for you guys. Of course, Mark Cohn not in action today, but double victor in the Triple Crowns. What are you guys looking for as we head into the second half of the season? Lots of ovals still to come.
Well, we've had a lot of fun so far as a team, and I think that's our main goal, is just keep it fun, enjoy competitive racing and Lionheart, and just keep each other company when one of us is fighting for a win, or, you know, fighting for spots.
Well, congratulations, Mike. You earned this victory out on track. Congratulations. We'll see you then in a couple of weeks' time from the land of the rising sun.
Hey, thanks so much, bud.
So that's Mike Rasmus, driver of the 68, and let's bring in the Avatar Order Racing driver of Matt Taylor. Matt, that was oh so close for you, but ultimately your call to come down slightly earlier did not play out the way you wanted.
No, I was going for, we decided to split the second half of the race in 2 to go lighter on fuel, and missing out on the pole there I think is kind of what did me in the long run. Just incredibly hard to stay on somebody's gearbox, and couldn't, I could stay behind him, but just couldn't quite get the run, and I didn't want to just throw it up the inside from a car length or 2 back. I think I could have made it stick, but I didn't want to race him like that.
It's been a very strong run for you, not just in the Retro Series, Matt, but across of the Lionheart competitions. Just how much do you enjoy this atmosphere that we have within the community here? It's so much fun. 3 different competitions, the DW12, the IR18, and this Lotus 79. They're all unique challenges. You've been doing very well in 2021.
Yeah, I feel like I'm starting to get my head wrapped around the IR18 a little bit more, and I love driving this Lotus. It's so much fun to slide around, and it just drives unlike anything else. And then we have a great community where you've got to be on. You're going to win or finish well, and if you're having an off night, you're going to pay for it.
Next time we'll head to Motegi, the scene of your first victory in the Lotus 79. How confident are you feeling heading back to the ovals to kick off the second half of this season?
That was a fun race last year for sure. It's an interesting kind of a pack race, how it kind of accordions on one end, and it's really a 1-corner track with this car, it seems like. So yeah, this is the 1-year anniversary of my time in Lionheart. Started at Sonoma here last year in the Retro, and 1 full year completed.
Congratulations on your second, Matt. We'll see you from Motegi, where hopefully you'll be able to continue your good run there and continue your championship charge.
Thank you, guys.
So Matt Taylor, one of the Avatar Auto Racing drivers. Let's bring in your 3rd place finisher, Aaron Morgan. Aaron, you were victorious north of the border at the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. A bit more difficult this time around. You were stuck behind Sage Karam in the early portions of the race, and from there, Rasmus and Taylor were just able to break away from you. But 3rd place, I'm sure you'll still be happy with that.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited just to finally bounce back, because Mid-Ohio and Indy were just kind of rough for me. I knew going into it I wasn't going to be faster than Matt. We were talking the whole time as teammates. He was a step above, so I knew it was just going to try to be second, and then Mike he really took off. So I think this was the best I could have gotten tonight. I'm pretty happy with it.
Quiet race, but I think now heading into the second half of the season, you talked about your misfortunes in the last couple of rounds. You'll be hoping to turn things around, not just in the Drivers' Championship, but you guys are having a very strong run in the team standings as, you know, Avatar Order Racing. What are your hopes as we head to a string of 5 consecutive ovals?
Oh, I hope that I can just consistently finish in the top 10 and get a few top 5s in there, because ovals, you know, they're not my strong suit, but I can still do really well in them. I feel like I've had a lot of races with like I could have wins on ovals, but then there's been more races where I could sometimes finish on the bottom end of the top 10. It's just kind of we'll have to see how it is. I think our team is really strong, and I'm pretty confident in our team winning the championship this year, but I'm hoping I can just keep pace with Mike and Matt since we're fighting over second in the points.
And if Sage Karam has more bad fortune like he had today, you might be squabbling for a championship. I asked this to the other drivers as well. I'm curious what your thoughts are. 4 rounds to conclude this championship. 3 of them are road courses. With your strength on the road courses, if you're in the mix coming into that final swing of things, you will be in with a shout. You will be one to watch. What are your thoughts about that run? Because it is some of the funnest tracks that we've got. Silverstone, Long Beach, and Road America. That's going to be a fun way to round things out.
Oh, I am so excited for those. I'm going to have to put in so many laps because I really, really want to do well at those. I mean, I think Road America is probably the best road course in the United States, and I think Long Beach is probably my second favorite as well. Like, those 2 tracks are amazing, and Silverstone is also a fantastic one. It's just, I'm going to have to put in a lot of work for those. I'm excited.
64 laps at Long Beach. That sounds like just a battle for survival. Congrats on 3rd here today, Aaron. We'll see you in a couple of weeks from the land of the rising sun.
Thanks, guys.
That wraps up our podium interviews. And David, before we say goodbye here on RaceSpotTV and ESTV, let's take a look at the schedule. 9 races done, 9 to go. And well, with Sage Karam's retirement here today, like I was saying to Aaron, things are really blown wide open.
Yeah, and you mentioned amazing tracks, both the oval variety and the road course variety, to come up and round out this championship. I think I'm looking forward to Long Beach. That is a massive, massive challenge in cars like these. It can be a little bit unwieldy, especially when the track temperature is hot. And that is another track in California, so almost guarantee some hot weather, some hot conditions. And instead of, digging up a little bit of grass, you'll be digging your suspension into concrete barriers around there. So that's half of the championship done, and the half still to go. Does not look like it is going to disappoint. And after today, the championship hunt even closer.
And I was hoping that we maybe get the live points updated so we could tell you just how much closer it is, but I don't think we'll have time for that today. So it is time to say goodbye. Before we do that, it's time to thank the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series. The Sim Experience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing steering system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, visit simexperience.com. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. For sim racers, the Butt Kicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit has the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? For more information, visit thebuttkicker.com, and don't forget to use promo code LION2021 for 20% off all orders. Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to use the promo code Minus273 LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. Looking for entertaining sim racing content? Look no further than the DMLC Racing channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing channel on YouTube and like his Facebook page at the DMLC Racing channel. It's not just them, but so many more that help power this Lionheart Racing series. To learn more about the names on your screen, or to get involved with all 3 competitions that the Lionheart Racing series put on, visit LionheartRacingSeries.com, and you can visit the series Discord to stay up to date with the latest comings and goings from the virtual paddock. Lots more esports action to come. To stay up to date with your Lionheart news, connect with them across of Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Lionheart Series. ESTV has you covered for your esports needs. Stay up to date with them, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. For all your sim racing action, look no further than RaceSpotTV. Subscribe to us on YouTube, hit that red bell button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with the great sim racing series that we get to cover. We'll be back from the land of the rising sun in 2 weeks' time, but there is plenty more Lionheart competition still to go. Next Wednesday, the Lionheart IndyCar Series returns as it heads to the Milwaukee Mile, as Adam Blocker's quest for another Lionheart Championship rolls on in 2021. Until then, it is Mike Razmas in HyperX victory lane, his 2nd victory in his career in this Lionheart Retro Series. On behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. I've been joined by the wonderful David Haynes. TV cameras provided to us by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com, with additional car cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. Live timing powered by our friends at ATVO, Simon Grossman, Kevin Niatola, and Nick Thyssen, doing so much work not just on our live timing, but our 2021 graphics package. We'll see you next time for more Lionheart competition, but for now, so long and goodbye.